Hi, my name's Holly, and welcome if you're new. I'm going to share with you today a small harvest from my garden. I'm going to take you over to my very small garden and just harvest a few things in a little bowl I have. It's not going to be very much because I don't unfortunately have a very large garden at my house. We don't live on a big property. I like to talk about homesteading because it's a goal of mine. I've been gardening for over 10 years. We have chickens, we have bees, we have this home garden. Again, it's not as big as I'd like, and I do landscape with a lot of edibles, but the majority of my garden is not at my house. I have a garden at a community garden, and I also have a garden at my in-laws. So I have 3 different gardens that I do garden at, and it makes a total of probably about less than a quarter of an acre, but it is a significant amount that I am able to grow for my family. So I do appreciate the space that I'm able to use off my land. And I talk about on my blog quite a bit how to grow when you don't have a lot of space. So unfortunately, today we won't be going to any of the other gardens, and the community garden honestly this year needs quite a bit of work. Last year it got neglected a little bit, and it's just very overgrown with weeds, so I haven't put anything in that one yet, and more than likely I won't put anything in until I get it under control. I've got to go through and weed everything from that garden, and there's a few plants in there that are still producing some things. Mostly it's cutting flowers over there right now for me, but it's just got a lot of thistle, and unfortunately in that part of that community garden there's just a huge issue with thistle. And it just tends to grow everywhere, and it doesn't matter how much cardboard or mulch that I put down, it just seems to grow up through, and if I'm away from it for any length of time, it just takes over, and it has really taken over this year. So that garden is a work in progress that I'll probably share at some point, going through and pulling all that stuff out and what I'll do with it to get it prepared for the fall harvest, which is probably my biggest, maybe even a little bit bigger than my summer garden. My fall garden tends to be the better of all my hauls because it's very hard for me to grow a lot of cool season crops in spring because it tends to get really hot really quick after staying really cold for a long time in Pennsylvania. So if I plant spinach, it tends to bolt almost as soon as it's ready to harvest. And a lot of the food that you would think would be sweeter tends to be a little more bitter because of the heat. So I do tend to make a bigger fall garden because I'm able to grow more during the fall. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to be able to overwinter some of the stuff that is in my fall garden. So I do enjoy that as well. Last year I was able to overwinter things like spinach, parsley, lettuce, mustard, kohlrabi, just a few things like that. So it's beneficial to have that kind of stuff around, I think, in fall because it helps feed us through winter fresh as well. But right now, like I said, I'm going to go through and I'm going to harvest from around my yard. There's several different places. The major place that I have is a garden that I put in, or my husband has built for me on the side of our yard, and then I do have some places around the yard that I have placed edible food to kind of landscape with. So we'll go around and harvest some stuff from there. I'm not expecting a lot because it's pretty early in the season, and I'm in a more central northern part of Pennsylvania, so our season isn't very far in at all. It tends to stay pretty cold. In fact, it's pretty cold today. Not like for summer, it's cold for summer. I think we're in the 60s, low 70s right now. So it's kind of a cold day for June, and a lot of things haven't really taken off yet. And I've been trying to feed them. They're still not doing the greatest, but it's doing a lot better than last year. Last year I just struggled really, really hard. It was really, really rainy, then really, really dry, just a bad year all around. And I know a lot of people complained about that as well. So I'm gonna stop sharing here. I know I tend to talk for a while, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'll take you outside and we'll harvest some strawberries, some peas, lettuce. We'll probably get a few other things too, some herbs, but and I'll share with you a little bit about the garden. Okay, so we're back in with my harvest, and we got some feverfew flowers. I probably will tincture some of these later on in the season, but right now I just want to put them in a vase. And I might dry some of them too. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with these. I just know they were getting in my way where they were, so I cut them. It's a very big plant. If you couldn't see from the video earlier, that this guy's just a monster. He overwintered. It's a plant that is somewhat sensitive to frost, but it didn't frost hard enough in our area this year that it killed it off. So it is a huge bushy plant that is on its second year of growth, and hopefully it continues to grow and get hardy and be able to survive more winters, because it is a great medicinal plant and I like having it. I harvested 2 heads of lettuce. Right now being summer, lettuce is something we use pretty often. One looked like it was about ready to bolt, so I wanted to pull that one. I'm not sure if it's going to be bitter. I'm going to taste it. If it is a little bitter, then it'll go to the chickens. I do grow out an abundance of lettuce for my chickens. Not necessarily on purpose. I tend to like to let things go to seed so they'll volunteer. It's less planting I have to do, and it, I think, helps keep weeds out of the garden. But as you can see from the video, I do have quite a bit of weeding to do. Another thing that I harvested in here was some kale. I have 2 different types of kale, but I don't recall exactly. I think one is red Russian and the other might be dinosaur kale. But I only harvested a small amount because those plants are relatively young. A big problem I had earlier this year was slugs. Every time I would plant something, a slug would come along and eat it, and that's especially true for my kale. So the kale was just little tiny baby plants, and they got decimated by the slugs. I put down some diatomaceous earth, which I don't know if I'm saying that correctly or not. And then I also put down slug magic, because the first part of my plan worked until it rained, and the slug magic slug bait is supposed to work despite rain. So it's like my process is twofold: something that works immediately and hopefully gets rid of the slugs for the next few days until it rains, and then any other bugs that might be pests in there as well. But I don't like to use something too harsh that it could harm my bees, so I do try and keep it to a minimum. But the slug magic is specifically targeted for slugs, and slugs are a major problem at my house. So the new baby plants went in after I took care of the slug problem. It's not completely eradicated, but it is much better. I also pulled some baby Swiss chard. Those are also teeny tiny plants back there. So the baby Swiss chard is going to go with the kale in a omelet type dish, and so that is why I only harvested a little bit of that. And also there's not a ton to harvest either. I also got a little bit of basil and parsley to go in a meal as well. I'm planning a pasta dish for later on this week that will use some parsley and some basil. And then, was there anything? Oh, I got some blueberries. My blueberry bush was looking a little sad, and some of the blueberries were a little shriveled. So I did go ahead and give that a good water, as well as the strawberries, because those are in a raised planter bed. And that's one of the ways I kind of extend my gardening spaces, by planting a lot in containers. So on the corner of my porch, I have several raised planters that have strawberries and some kale, a little bit of cilantro. Most of the cilantro has gone bolted, but I think that's it in those planters. The majority of it is strawberries, and then beside those planters is blueberry in a pot. And so I harvested some blueberries from that. And then, let's see, something just dropped here. That's a bug. I think that's it for everything that we kind of got today. So, sorry, I had a little panic. There was a bug that dropped out and jumped on me, and I didn't know what kind of bug it was. So anyway, that's pretty much it for today as far as what I'm going to harvest. Like I said, it was a relatively small harvest, but I will tour you around the whole house and show you exactly what I have, because there's a whole back section of the house. I plant some things along, and then the side yard you saw some of, but not quite everything that is there. We have back where the kale and the Swiss chard is, we also have mushroom logs. And right now we're currently trying to place down a better slug barrier for the mushroom logs, because that's the biggest issue that we have is slugs in the mushroom logs. So we have several kinds of mushrooms back there. We also have some other fruit around the property, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberry. We have peaches, apples, and then there's a container herb garden on the side of the yard. And of course our bees and our chickens we have as well. So there's quite a bit on our property for just a small yard. And again, it's not very big. It's only 1/4 of an acre that we have here at our house. And again, there's like another 1,200 square feet, 2 different places each. So this is quite a bit of garden space that I do have in total. One I'm currently utilizing, the other definitely needs to be addressed. And it's pretty early in the season, like I said, so that's more of my fall gardening space, which I am appreciative of having a place where I can do spring, summer, and then kind of prepare for end of summer, fall stuff, because it can get hard to decide what to pull out and what to put in for growth. So having that third space is very helpful for preparing for a fall garden, just because again I kind of lean into the fall garden for things like broccoli and cabbage and kohlrabi and cauliflower, spinach, kale, mustards, those sort of things. Those things will get grown over in the community garden, and I will share that later with you. But for now, mostly around the house is the end of spring stuff. New summer things were put in recently, and where I have my microclimate, like I said, back where the mushrooms are, it's a lot cooler because it's shaded by maple and oak trees. So I tend to grow things that are more spring faring back there. So there's peas and Swiss chard and kale, and then over at my in-laws is a lot of my tomatoes, my beans, all that kind of stuff that doesn't necessarily need everyday attention, but every other day or every third day. So luckily she's not too far away from me to get there pretty often. So I'll share that one day too. All right, thank you.